Before we get started today, I want to give a quick shout out to our headline sponsor, Stute Technologies. Every week on this show, I talk to operators who are crushing it on the service side, but still chasing down payments. That cash flow gap is brutal when you're trying to scale your business. That's why I wanted to tell you about Stute. Stute is the AI platform that does accounts receivable work instead of just assisting with it. Their CEO, Tarek, actually came from TQL, so he gets how logistics companies operate. I've known him for years, and I truly trust what he's building. What Stute does is simple. Their AI actually collects your receivables for you, not some software that just helps you chase the payments. It literally does the work. It's up and running in days, not months. As an example, Bishop Lifting is using Stute for a 35% reduction in overdue invoices, millions more in working capital, and a reduction of manual work by 50%. If you're tired of your AR eating up time and cash, check out Stute.ai. That's STUUT.ai. Tell them you heard about it on the Freight Pod. They'll get you collecting in days, not months, so you can focus on actually running your business. Now let's get this episode started. Welcome back to another episode of the Freight Pod. I'm your host, Andrew Silver, joined today by another special guest, Mr. Hans Stig Moller. Did I say that right?
You did.
Thank you. I got some help. CEO of Odyssey Logistics, one of the largest and most interesting, I think, freight companies in our industry. And I'm excited to kind of dive into both your personal journey and that of the business you run today. So I want to first just welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much. And thanks for asking me to join you.
Yeah, I'm excited. So let's get started and just jump right in. How did you get into the freight industry?
So, I was born and raised in Denmark, and the largest logistics company in Denmark. And for many years, especially in the container side, was Maersk. And everybody admired that company, especially growing up in a smaller country of 6 million people, kind of aspired that would be an exciting industry to get into. And when I graduated college, that was one of the opportunities that I looked at. And I actually started as a trainee/gopher in the Los Angeles office at the first job out of school.
When did you come to the States for the first time? For that job, or did you go to school in the States?
I moved to the United States in 1980 with my family, and went to high school and then college on the West Coast.
Is your last name's Moller? Is there any connection to the brand?
No connection. This the right last name but the wrong family. We're actually Stig Moller. The other Moller family is really a McKinney Moller. But you don't really use hyphens in Denmark. So, but Moller is a very common name in Denmark.
Well, did that help at all when you worked there, or people just thought they should help you more, or gave you a little more respect?
There's a lot of Mollers that work for Maersk as well. Like I said, it's a very common name. So no, it didn't really change anything. Versus, it was helpful that I spoke Danish because working with the headquarters out of Copenhagen and dealing with a lot of the executives and various business leaders there, it was always helpful to be able to converse in the language and also understand part of the culture possibly better than others.
What would you say is different about the kind of Danish work culture versus what you see here in the States?
I think the Danish work culture is more direct. And people will tell you what they think. They're not there's not a runabout way to describe the issue. And it's a very direct matter of fact. And some people have a challenge dealing with that. Others are fine with it. And growing up there, that's just partly how the communication is done.
So like when you think about kind of your leadership style today, like what from your Danish roots do you think you've kind of brought to kind of how you carry yourself, how you lead the business?
I've always been very direct. My direct reports don't necessarily need to think what it is I'm thinking, or am I sharing everything that's on my mind, etc. I'm very transparent. And sometimes some of them are like, wow, it's a little more information that I wanted to hear or know, but they don't have to worry about that there's anything being left out. But I think that transparency is important and is powerful, and ensuring alignment at all times is critically important to ensure that you really get the results that you're looking for.
I'm a big believer in transparency and directness. I agree. And, I'm curious if you've ever seen kind of the other side of that coin where it's caused you trouble or you've had issues as a result of being direct or too transparent.
Some people have an issue dealing with the facts. And I think at the end of the day, as long as you deal with business facts and it's not hearsay, and you have facts behind what it is you're saying, then it's fine to be direct. If you don't have facts, then it's much more difficult because then you can shoot holes in a lot of the communication that you have. But you need to make sure that you have your ducks in order and that you're talking about specific issues. And I'm a big proponent of action plans and really working through what are the issues, what is it we need to do, who's the owner, and what's the due date.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I want to give the listeners some context on your overarching story, and then we'll kind of go through bits and pieces that I think are most interesting. Can you just kind of walk through your whole career arc from that first job in LA, what you were doing to, even now today? And then I will go through and pick specific spots to go deeper on, but I just want to give everyone kind of a bigger overview of your career.
So I started in Los Angeles as a gopher trainee for a little less than a year. Did every job in the office, including working at the container terminal, the CFS, the trucking company. So I was very fortunate to get a very broad view of the business, and I worked in every single department and almost every desk in the office as well. One of the things I learned early on from that, and I still reflect on it today, is that every job's important, and there's a reason for every role. If not, they wouldn't be here. And I also got an appreciation for every function in the organization and the challenges that each function is confronted with. So that was the first part. Then I went into sales, and my first role was really to cover the airport area. I had a lot of freight forwarders. And at the time, Maersk was entering into the transatlantic trade lane and had not given the freight forwarders a lot of attention because in the Pacific trade, we're really just dealing with the BCOs. And I got thrown out of more offices than I care to admit because we hadn't been in to see them for a long time, and they didn't really care for the brand. But I just continued to be persistent and eventually won over one by one, and we started really to get some traction with a lot of the forwarders who tend to be located in the airport area. From there, I took over a territory actually of the San Joaquin Valley, which was from Bakersfield to Fresno. All the farmers drastically different. I spent a week, generally a month up there, drove 1,000 miles visiting the farmers, et cetera. Fantastic experience, great people. So up there, we exported predominantly a lot of the fruits, nuts, and the cotton was the three big commodities out of the San Joaquin Valley, obviously. Then I moved to New Jersey, and initially I was in corporate sales for a little over a year. So I was an intermediary between the U.S. organization and the headquarters in Copenhagen, facilitating sales and pricing issues. Then I moved on to a pricing role where I handled pricing and policy, specifically on the refrigerated side, based on my experience in the San Joaquin Valley, dealing with a lot of the refrigerated customers. Then from there, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee. I ran a small district office covering the state of Arkansas, a third of Tennessee, 2/3 of Mississippi. There was a small customer at the time called Walmart in Bentonville that did a lot of business with Sealand and not with Maersk. And Maersk and Sealand shared vessels, but they were very pleased with the Sealand service, which they were able to take advantage of, obviously also on the Maersk vessels. But it took me about a year and a half to break into Walmart and I got my initial 15 minutes of fame talking about a port called Yantian, which was opening up, and which they had not heard of. And the discussions continued from there. We had some South America opportunities and kind of took off. It was a team effort between me and a group in Asia as well. As soon as we got the floodgates open, and the business grew quite significantly with Walmart became a great partner of Maersk. From there, I moved to Seattle. Was in Seattle for 2 years. I handled the Pacific Northwest region, which dealt with really Alaska, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. So a unique part of the U.S., a lot, again, on the refrigerated side with the fish, et cetera, but also apples, a lot of the refrigerated commodities. But it's my first role from Memphis as a district manager to Seattle being more of a regional manager. This was before everything was centralized, so we still had customer service and documentation and booking and all the functions locally in the office. So it was the old school version of how you ran a region and an office. Really great experience, great people. There we had a customer in Beaverton, Oregon called Nike that we didn't do any business with, and I find it hard to believe that the largest shipping line in the world didn't do business with the largest footwear company in the world. And it took me almost a year and a half to break into Nike, and we finally did before I moved to Panama. So I moved to Panama, Republic of Panama. I was down there for 7.5 years after Seattle, and amazing experience, amazing people, amazing team. When I got there, we were mid-sized carrier. At the end of '99, we bought Sealand and doubled in size quickly. And within a very short order, we were the largest customer of the canal, the ports, and the railroads. So we were a big fish in a small pond. That obviously came with certain challenges, but really, I have to say that fantastic experience and the growth we experienced and the succession planning and the development of the local team down there was phenomenal. One person in particular I hired from Sealand in sales, Antonio Dominguez, who now is president of Maersk Latin America, and very proud to have seen his growth and development, and he's doing a phenomenal job down there for the organization, and a great testament of locals moving up in organizations with the right willingness to learn and also development, and just couldn't be more proud of his accomplishments, what he has done down there. Leaving Panama, we moved the regional office into Panama, and it was time for me to move on after especially 7.5 years. Unusual to stay that long. I stayed longer because of just the growth was explosive. Moved to LA initially and took over a warehouse and distribution company. We did transloading, cross dock, and also had it's about 14 facilities total, pick and pack as well, in a number of large warehouse facilities throughout the United States. Then I moved on to Jersey. I lived there for 2 years and did the same job. Then on to Charlotte in 2008. And I took over the drayage division of Maersk called Bridge Terminal Transport, and I ran that for about 7.5 years. The last 2.5 years, the first 2 of that, it was sold to private equity, to Platinum Equity. We were spun off, and they had a quite successful exit with a very short ownership and a bidding war to XPO. I handed that over to XPO Intermodal, and then I spent the next about 4 years with XPO working on a number of roles. Officially, it was sales operations, but it was quite broad, especially the opportunities that XPO provided. I was involved in the acquisition of Conway. I was involved in setting the sales strategy for XPO globally. We worked closely with an outside consultant to put that together. So great experience. Learned an awful lot at XPO. It was a phenomenal experience. And then I moved on to work for Sun Capital as a senior advisor for 2 of their portfolio companies. and then landed at Odyssey Logistics about 3 years ago.
What a fascinating career journey. I mean, that's like so cool how many different places you got to go and different roles you got to participate in. I guess I have so many questions. First question is like, did you ever think you would leave Maersk?
No, I did not. And it was a phenomenal place to work, great people. And I think when I think back at most of the roles I've had in the past, what do I miss the most is the people. And it's a great organization, great values, very well run. I definitely felt very much at home there. But with a spinoff, leading the drayage company, when that was spun off to private equity, and the role I had at the time, I had to go with the organization, and that's what really caused it.
So what's really interesting to me is my career moving freight strictly as a broker. I started with produce. At one point, I hauled for Nike. Another point, I was Walmart's contact. So like hitting on three of the core kind of customer bases you mentioned, and they're all very unique types of customers. What I'm curious about is in your time at Maersk, what was the most unique type of freight that you were in, or the most unique role you were engaged in terms of the challenges that come with it, and elaborate a little bit on what that looked like?
I think the most unique was probably in Panama. When you, I think you come across a lot of executives, but few who have international experience. That really brings a whole new dimension of just how you operate, and you have your core values of the company you represent and what you should do and how you should do it, and then you have parameters within the country you're in and how things work there. And we were unique in Panama because we had our own offices there. We were not represented like at least at that time. That has changed since then for some of the carriers. Most of the carriers at the time had agencies down there, agencies representing them. So we had a vested interest because we had our own people there. I was the leader representing the shipping company's interest. So we really were watching out for number one, which was Maersk. The agents, they were watching out for who they represented, but had multiple interests really that they had to watch out for. So a little different, and I appreciate that. So there were definitely challenges that came up with working down there that I had to go to bat and deal with. These are sensitive issues, and you have to make sure that you got your facts in order and that you're going in fighting for the right things. And there were a number of things that came up where I actually met with the vice president and minister of commerce and expressed our concerns over some of the things that were taking place. And I give them a lot of credit that they listened, and we managed to get a mutual understanding of what the right path forward was and what we should do. So, but somebody had to take the initiative to go meet with them, explain to them what some of the things that they were looking at doing or considering doing, what the effects were. And one of the things I explained was that airlines have flying assets. They can fly them in a lot of directions. They don't have to come to any particular location. Shipping lines, we have floating assets. They could sail in a lot of directions too. And once you kind of outline a little more as to what the picture looks like, then they quickly realize that, okay, we need to look at this maybe a little differently, and there's a better solution to what we're trying to solve here.
I'm curious about selling this type of service in general. And the context that I'll add is I'm a freight broker at heart, right? And selling freight brokerage, you're selling against 30,000 competitors. It's very different in your world when you were at Maersk, in that like there's way fewer competitors, asset based and What is that experience like, talking about, in the Walmart example, and you can talk about other examples too, but like, it's like you versus Sealand. And like, I'm just curious what it's like to sell in that environment. What's different than, now you're more of a brokerage type capacity, or multimodal, but, just curious about that in general, if you could talk a little bit about it.
I think at the end of the day, all these businesses, they're people businesses. And we should never forget that. Relationships matter, but you still need to have a value proposition. You need to be able to convince the customer why you versus somebody else. But the relationship is an important part of it. But what's your real value prop? And are you truly outlining what that is? Many times people sell price, and price is great, but that's transactional. That's not sticky business. That's not partnership. One thing that I've implemented throughout my career is I'm a firm believer in whether it's quarterly or semi-annual reviews with especially larger customers and it doesn't have to be a 3-hour meeting. It could be an hour meeting, but how do we agree on a set of KPIs that are really for the critical things that really matter? And also when we talk about what's going well, what's not going well, and what are we doing to fix these things? And how do we also grow the partnership? I think that's really how you want to look at this. And I don't care if you're selling truck brokerage, maybe it doesn't apply quite as much, but it probably would to your larger customers
Sure.
than it would be to the more transactional side. But you gotta the business is evolving, and if you think that transactional business is really where the future lies, that's not the way I would look at it, at least.
Holy sh! That is what everyone says when they see Genlog's truck intelligence platform for the first time. Founded by ex-CIA operatives and fueled by 15 million daily images across a nationwide camera network, Genlogs gives you the power of total market capacity while also defending you against fraudulent carriers. Holy sh! Is what Genlogs customers say again when they see the ROI from covering loads faster with fatter margins. Holy shippers. That's right. Genlogs unveils the locations and lanes for all the shippers in America. In the era of artificial intelligence, nothing beats actual intelligence from verified by video data. See what Genlogs can do for you. Check out a demo at genlogs.io. Again, that is GENLOGS.io. Tell them Andrew sent you, and they'll include their carrier compliance suite for free. And if you haven't already, I interviewed their founder, Ryan Joyce, last year, and it's one of my personal favorite episodes that we've done. Check it out. Now, let's get back to the show. Talk to me a little bit more about your just general philosophy of selling and kind of, you've had so many sales roles and a long career and doing it in different avenues, different types of customers. I love the concept of KPIs and being direct and going deeper in the partnership, but like, just give me a little bit more in general on your sales philosophy and how you think about both structuring a sales org and the process of selling.
I can tell you that the way I look at it is everybody's in sales, and in an organization, there's nobody who's not. Everybody deals with customers. It doesn't really matter what your role is in the organization. You're dealing with customers and you are in sales. One of the things we're encouraging at Odyssey is that for even customer service, to ask our customers, what else can we do for you? Ask for more. And they know the customers. They have the relationships. How can we do more things for you? What are your pain points? What do you need help? And I think you really got to dig in to look at how do you partner with a customer and not make it transactional. So I think it really starts with understanding your customer. I think a lot of people out there, if they really drill down and say, do I really understand the customer? Do I really know my customer's business? More often than not, I think you'll find is they kind of do, but they really don't. One question you might ask is, what's their spend? How much do they spend on trucking, LTL or full truckload? What do they spend on ocean? What do they spend on warehousing? You can go down the list of the services. Do you even know that? And until you know that, you really don't know your customer. And a lot of times what I hear is that, oh, we don't know that, they're privately held and we can't get that information. Well, there's a way to ask enough questions where you can get directionally learn what those numbers are and be a lot smarter about the customer's business. And the internet today, it's amazing. There's an awful lot of information available today that I don't buy that you can't get that. So understanding the share of wallet, the overall spend and what your share of wallet is a critical piece of the sales process to really hone in on. Do I have 10% of the customer's business? Do I have 50%? Do I have 100? Do we really know and understand that? And what is the customer looking for? Not what I'm looking for. I think the biggest challenge that salespeople have is that they're good at talking. They're not as good at listening. And the key is to probe and then be quiet. Listen to the customer. See what the customer is willing to tell you. And if they're tough getting things out of, just keep probing and asking more and more questions, and eventually you will get the picture. It might not be in the first meeting, it might be multiple meetings, might be different people, but you really need to understand the overall picture of what is the customer looking for. Then you can do a lot better job of putting together the right value prop that you might be able to offer.
What an exceptionally wise answer. So much gold in that. I mean, I think as someone who spent his career in sales, it's like a lot of salespeople, they approach a situation or an opportunity with their goal in mind, right? They want to land the customer, or they want to grow the business, whatever. And it's me centric, it's I centric, it's about what my team can get. But if you can develop a perspective shift to understand that if you can go in thinking about what is it that they want, and if I can deliver that for them, it will ultimately result in me getting what I want in most cases. And I think that's powerful to focus on the idea that you can't get to that. You can't know what they want or need unless you do that probing, unless you ask those questions, sometimes repeatedly, until you get what you need to understand how to deliver a solution or create a solution. So I think that's a really great answer.
And I'd add to it is, does the customer even know what you have to offer? Do they really understand what the organization that you represent, what you have to bring to the table? Or do they only know that, okay, we offer intermodal. That's really what we offer. Well, we offer 10 other modes of services as well. They just don't even know about it. Or are you able to ensure that your customers really know the scope that you're able to bring to the table? And some organizations have a broader scope than others, but there's probably more that they could do for that customer if the customer knew that they also offered those services.
And I think that's such a critical point where you understand that this is where sales is an art form, because it's not going in and just dumping all that information onto the customer. Like, here are all the things we do, and just like unloading it. Right. You need them to understand what you can do, but not in a way where you just dump it on them where it's irrelevant or it's too much. And, you don't want to go and just do all the talking. So it's a dance of asking questions to gauge enough info to know when it's time to jump in and say, like, hey, these are actually the things that I can do for you that align with what your needs are. But it's a dance, because you don't want to do too much of like asking 100 questions to the point where you're not giving anything. And the other side of it is what a lot of people do is they just go in and they just word vomit all of the things that they've memorized, about the services they can offer. It's the conversational back and forth where you're giving and taking in the right way.
Yep. No, that's really what it comes down to. But I know that what I hear often is, the business is down. We have this, that, and the other. There's plenty of business out there, and somebody's getting it. Why not us? So the key is to understand the customer. And the other thing that I found, to elaborate a little further on your question, is, do you have the right relationships at the right level? One of the areas that many struggle with is that it's important to have relationships at all levels, and not just at the top or necessarily further down in an organization, but it's also important to have it at senior levels to really have stickiness. But with that, you need support of leaders within your organization to come in and help you develop those relationships at senior levels, because that takes these relationships to a whole different whole different level and a whole different discussion, a much more strategic discussion versus a transactional discussion. And that's easier said than done, because some companies are more so open to that than others. But that's about networking and finding ways to get into the highest levels possible within your customer to create a much more senior relationship between the two companies, and then others on the team can also work at the appropriate levels to ensure that the partnership evolves.
Yeah. So another great point that takes me into kind of a side part of this is like, I agree wholeheartedly. And I think that, and this is just dating back to my own sales career. Like, first of all, people don't love to be uncomfortable. Most people don't. If you can get to a point where you can love living in the discomfort, you're ahead of the world by a lot. But I say that to say that, you do all this work, you navigate all this discomfort to develop a relationship with one person who can give you loads or give you a business. And then you're finally in a place of comfort. And so it's like, it's not often that people will push, like you're saying, to go into discomfort again and reach out to someone else and reach out to someone else. And in some cases, you don't have to be fully like, it's not like you have to fully cold call all these people. Ideally, if you've gotten in with one person and you've done a great job, they can help start relationships with other people. But it goes up and down. I mean, I think one of the things that I learned that was super valuable when I first started selling was, first of all, the transportation manager often didn't want to talk to me. And so I'd start lower. I would just call a facility, the same people who, the dock workers or whoever's answering the phone at the facility. And their primary function might be just to schedule the trucks that come in and out. But you could call that person and probe them for information and ask them, like, what's it like in your role dealing with transportation providers? And they might be like, yeah, all these dang brokers that we're using don't show up on time. All the morning appointments always get missed. That's a piece of gold right there, that if you then finally get on the phone with the transportation manager and like, listen, I understand that you guys struggle with your morning appointments with brokers and that's pissing off your dock workers, I can help you there. I can put a priority on that. And so it goes both ways. And, there's so much information to learn, and you use that information to then, develop the next relationship, and maybe it gets you business. But the worst case on the other side of this is if you don't, and you have one contact and that contact retires, or that contact, God forbid, gets laid off, or they decide just to leave. And maybe they leave and that creates a new opportunity for you at their next company. Maybe they leave the industry altogether. But the worst case is they leave and you're left with nobody that you know. And all of a sudden you're just a number on a piece of paper of, this person does X number of loads with us. Maybe their KPIs are good, maybe they're not. But if you don't have a relationship, whoever comes in next and they want to make decisions, I mean, you're in a lot of trouble there potentially. So I appreciate you bringing up that concept, because it got me thinking about a lot of things.
I think it's critical, but to your point, you should never underestimate who at a customer could be helpful and could be influential. So you can't just think, oh, I'm just going to cover the top leaders. No, it doesn't work that way. You need to cover top to bottom. And as I mentioned, the biggest challenge that a lot of salespeople have is, how do you get to those higher levels? Well, you can have your superiors help you get into higher levels, and it's all about networking. At the end of the day, when we look across, it's a small industry when it comes down to it. I've heard many people say that the best salesperson, and I'm not sure it's always true, is a CEO, but the CEO should be actively involved in sales, should be out there seeing customers. I will be the first to tell you that the more time I spend in my office looking at my computer screen, the more concerned I get about what's going on in the real world. It's out in the field where the rubber meets the road, and really I spend a fair amount of time on the road. And when I do, I spend time with our teams out there, with our partners, and also with our customers. And that's how I really get a pulse of what's going on in the real world.
Yeah, that was something I saw in kind of the bio your team sent me, that you try to be very hands-on, and you'll visit your teams, whether it's in Hawaii, Alaska, wherever. Aside from just trying to get some extra personal vacation time, in beautiful places. What about your kind of leadership style? Like, why do you focus so much on that kind of hands-on, going out to the teams and
It's
being out
funny
in the real world?
you should mention that because my last trip to Hawaii, I left the house at 5:30. My wife happened to be up, and she said, "Enjoy your vacation." And I landed out in Hawaii at, I think it was at actually close to 5 o'clock local time, which is 11 o'clock our time. The first night we had a dinner at 7:30, which was 11:30 our time. And I got back at 9:30, which was 3:30 in the morning. And I did that for 4 nights straight. And then I took a red eye back. And my wife asked me when I came, my guy, how was your vacation? And here are the kids, and I'm leaving. And so some of these trips, they might sound glamorous. And the glamour really is spending time with the team and seeing our key partners and our customers. But there's parts of it that's not quite as glamorous, but it's amazing how some people make them very glamorous. I'm not sure it's all there.
So what do you feel like you learn out in the field that you just can't learn sitting at your desk
So one
on
of the
your
things I do
computer
as
or
I
the
travel
dashboards?
is, especially with the teams, I'll have a mini town hall at every location, and I'll give a brief update on the company and the organization. I will have talked to the local leadership first and said, is there any certain things, hot topics that the team wants me to cover that's important that we cover, that they have an interest in? And we'll cover those as well. Then I'll open up for questions. And the more I do it, the more questions I get. And I'm encouraged by questions because it shows that they're comfortable asking and they're curious. They want to know more. So that interaction many times is extremely valuable. Also, the questions they ask me and to see what concerns do they have. And not having been there, I've never have learned that. But even to seeing the facilities, seeing what we do, getting a real feel for what are we doing, what are some of the challenges we have locally, how might I be able to help address some of those issues? Sometimes they're simple, sometimes they're bigger issues. They could be larger capital investments that we want to make that's been postponed for whatever reason. That okay, now I understand what it is we want to do. Yeah, it makes sense. Yes, we should do it. Seeing it's a little different than getting on a Teams call, et cetera. You don't really get the same effect. But even meeting with our customers and partners, you sit in front of a customer, you really learn what the customer is looking for, and you also have an opportunity to thank the customer for their partnership. I think it's critically important. And many of our customers are very appreciative when we sit in front of them and learn more about them, and also talk about what we're doing and what we're doing that's important for them. Our investments in IT, for example, what are we doing? What do we see AI taking us, et cetera? And our partners, how do we become a better partner? Are we a good partner for them? For example, on Hawaii, we use 2 different shipping lines to Hawaii. That's and also Acacia. Are we a good partner? So things that we're doing that is making life difficult for them or not. And sometimes there's small things that can easily be addressed. Sometimes there's nothing. But at least we want to make sure we ask those questions, and that hopefully differentiates us from our others. That we truly want to be a partner, and a partner is not a one way street.
Yeah, I think before you mentioned the comment that CEOs are, and you said, I don't know if you said you don't know if you agree with this, but that CEOs are intended to be the best salesperson, and I've heard that before.
I think they're an important part of it.
So I want to counter, and because I've heard that, my father has said that, and there are parts of me that have believed that. But I think the more important distinction is that the CEO is the best representation of what the business stands for and what the business cares about. Like how the CEO spends their time is certainly indicative of what's most important to the business. And if you think about it more from the perspective of the customer, when the CEO shows up in Hawaii, flying from Charlotte, and to sit down and ask, like, how are we doing? What does that tell the customer? What does that tell the customer about what the brand cares about, what the business cares about, that the most important person in the organization is willing to fly 3,000 miles to go sit with them and ask them how the team is doing for them? that was something that I like felt was super important for me. And hearing you and just all the wisdom I've gotten from you in just 37 minutes, it's like, this is reinforcing that belief that this is such a valuable use of a CEO's time, is getting out into the field, whether it's in front of the team, giving them the opportunity to ask whatever questions, and doing so openly, where there's no penalty or guardrails on what you can ask, and then out in front of the customer. So I just really appreciate that insight. I think my audience will also kind of take a lot of value from that.
We have big operations in the Midwest as well, so I spent a lot of time in the Midwest, also seeing customers up there, and we have quite a few facilities, so I'm able to combine a number of things while up there. So absolutely, no, but it's I think it's important, and if you don't, you'll be too disconnected from the business, and at the end of the day, without customers, what do you have?
Nothing.
There's a saying that people are the most important asset. I would modify it slightly. I'd say the right people are your most important asset, at least for the organization. And on top of that, the right customers are also the right customers who understand what partnership's all about, and the right partner vendors too, critical to your success. And I think it's a mixture of those that you need to invest time in to ensure that how do you make that work cohesively to create your success.
100%, 100%. Hold up, wait a minute. Let's give a quick shout out to our sponsor, CloneOps.ai. Logistics moves fast. There are calls to make, updates to send, documents to track. Your customers are always waiting. CloneOps.ai helps teams stay ahead with a platform that can be white labeled and a marketplace of AI agents built for real logistics operations. Inside the CloneOps marketplace, you'll find agents for tracking, documents, after-hours support, finance workflow, fraud prevention, and more. These agents plug into your workflows and existing systems to handle the repetitive tasks, whether it's making calls, sending emails, replying to texts, gathering info, or writing updates. Your team stays in control with real-time visibility into every interaction. And because the AI is always turned on, operations keeps moving even when your team can't. A standout is Carrier Screening Plus Voice ID, which ties a voice to a DOT number and alerts your team when that same voice appears across different or multiple DOT numbers, helping catch fraudsters before they cause damage. No one else has this. And for companies building a long-term AI strategy, CloneOps.ai gives you the ability to white label, build, own, and control every AI use case across your business. And this team is run by David Bell, founder and leader who I've known for years, a good friend of mine, and someone who, frankly, anything he touches in this industry turns to gold. I trust him with what he's building here. If you're ready for automation that supports your people, visit CloneOps.ai. Now let's get back to the show. So I want to just take 2 minutes on one topic, and then we're going to go all in on Odyssey and talk about what you're doing there. You were actively running bridge transport when the business was sold, and having been through an acquisition myself, I always find it interesting to talk a little bit about kind of acquisition culture and what's important in an acquisition and to make it successful. Because a lot of times in the freight industry, acquisitions happen and so much is lost because of whatever poor decisions are made that lead to people leaving, customer relationships breaking down, whatever it may be. So going back to that acquisition that you kind of went through, what were the kind of cornerstones of making that a success? Or do you feel like there were things that didn't go as well there are lessons you took from it?
So we've been owned by Maersk for over 30 years, homegrown, and really were the drayage arm of the organization. And decisions were made to spin off a number of these subsidiaries. The drayage company in the U.S. was one of them. We went through a process, and they were various potential buyers that looked at us, both financial and also sponsors. And as a as we went through it, we ended up with private equity. I didn't have a lot of experience with private equity beforehand. This particular private equity firm that bought us, Platinum Equity, that we're in the logistics space in a number of areas, and it was a carve out really coming out of the parent, and the carve out, the biggest challenge you have in those is IT. And it was touch and go on the IT carve out. It was very, very challenging. I had a lot of smart people, smarter than me, that facilitated this. I've remembered like it was yesterday, multiple nights where we were all there as a team until 4 a.m. and trying to pull this off. I was more moral support than anything else. I couldn't help with anything else, but I felt I needed to be there to support the team. But they worked endless hours. They pulled it off. Together with a couple of key consultants that were hired, that did a phenomenal job. But the IT carve out was probably the biggest and also the biggest risk. I would say that was done correctly. But standalone, when you come out of a parent, is that's a big change and a big cultural change too. Because what does this mean? And what for especially the team? What does this mean that they're going to own us for a year or 6 months or 10 years, or what does the future hold? And in private equity, as we all know, private equity firms, they're in business to buy and sell companies. That's what they do. They buy companies and they add value to them, and at the appropriate times they spin them off. So my best feedback to the team was, let's focus on running the business. Let's focus on building the best business we can. And when we will be sold, we'll worry about that then. But spending a lot of time on that doesn't really add a lot of value. And we are going to have a say, but it's not really our decision. So the focus was really on how do we run the business? How do we do the best we can? And one of the challenges we had then was we were still being owned by a big parent, had a lot of business from that parent, and we needed to diversify. We needed really to make sure that our customer base was much more diversified. In the past, it was difficult to diversify because many of the other shipping lines were concerned whether we would share information to the parent of volumes that they were doing, et cetera, and we did not. But getting that perception change was challenging. But being now standalone, we definitely opened up some new doors to be able to get in because we were finally standalone. So it created some opportunities on growth. I brought in a new sales leader that did a phenomenal job, and we managed to successfully diversify the business. But we also went through the sale from there into XPO, and obviously that was a significant change. Again, from being standalone, now being part of a big organization again.
So, as someone who is keen on transparency, and I went through this because I had a similar belief that transparency was the best form of communication. But that's hard when you're thinking about acquisition, or there's an uncertain future or uncertain timing of the future. Maybe the future is certain that there's going to be a deal, but you don't know when or with whom. And employees want safety and security maybe above everything other than pay. And it's a hard thing to kind of balance, is like, how transparent do I want to be with my team about what's going on, knowing that the more transparent I am, the more risk there is that people are concerned about their safety and security in this business and what's going to happen. So I'm curious how you thought about that as you navigated leading through those the two acquisitions.
I think it's really it's really, you got to over communicate. You got to share with them. Don't sugarcoat it, and don't start making up things. Be transparent and say, this is what it is. This is what it's not. I'm not going anywhere. It's more of the same. I think they just need to be assured that we are okay. Business is the same. This is a strategy going forward. This is what we're going to do. This is how the business is going to evolve. And then time itself cures a little bit, and they start seeing, okay, what he said is actually happening, and it is correct. So that you need further down the organization, you need individuals who share um, that story with others, because you can only say so much, and a point comes where it's not effective for you to continue to talk. It's better for others in the organization, to other colleagues of theirs, to share their opinions and their beliefs and what's actually taking place. So you really, you got to cover all areas, and but you can still do what you can do to over communicate and ensure that you're also available for questions. What are your concerns? What's on your mind? Why is there anything particular that you're uncertain about, in terms of what we're doing, or your future, etc. And really the story I used more than anything else, which is factual, is that we were going to be sold eventually, and the better business we bought, we would land in a place, and whoever bought us what are they buying? They're buying people. They're buying the team. They're buying the business, and that every one of them were going to be needed. But I didn't have a crystal ball of exactly what the outcome was going to be, so you can't overpromise. But private equity, they're there to build good businesses and to sell good businesses to others, to do more with them. And a number of things can happen, but you just got to be careful you don't overpromise something that you don't know. But this is what's available today. As it changes, I'll keep you abreast of what's going on, and we will share information as appropriate. And I think that's the best you can do. Trying to make things up or overpromise things that you really shouldn't or couldn't, then it's a slippery slope. Then they can see right through that, and rightfully so. But we didn't really have a lot of issues with the transition. Actually, I'd say, reflecting back on it, it went even better than I expected. It was probably more the CFO and the financial team that came under increasing pressure based on private equity being more hands-on on the specific financials and the data, et cetera, like they do. Not to say Maersk didn't, but they take it up a couple of notches. But other than that, I think the rest of the organization really was more focused on just running the business. And I to a large extent, shielded it from that. They didn't really come out and get involved in the business. Most of private equity, they really look for management teams to run the business and to report in as appropriate, whether it's monthly or on a quarterly board meeting. But they don't want to run these businesses. That's what we are there for, and should be there for.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I appreciate you diving into that. All right, now let's move into Odyssey for the rest of our time. So why? I'm sure you had plenty of opportunities given the illustrious career that you had already been on. And what was it that drew you to this role at Odyssey?
When I was approached initially, I'd heard of Odyssey, didn't know a lot about the company, and as I dove into it a little bit more, I saw a lot of similarities between XPO and Odyssey, but on a much smaller scale. But Odyssey was a roll-up at the time of 16 acquisitions over about 20 years. At XPO, 15 companies were rolled up in 8 years, much larger, but a lot of similarities to a roll-up type of scenario. And I really reflected on my time at XPO, where I learned a ton, and a lot of similarities where I could use some of the block and tackle and learnings from XPO, and I could put that into Odyssey. And I saw this is a great opportunity of taking pieces of what I learned in my past career, whether XPO or other, and applying that in and coming in really making a difference. And I think that's really what attracted me. The other thing that attracted me was I had quite extensive dialogue with the PE firm, and as we all know, it's important we have we're aligned in mutual respect with whoever we work with or for. And I saw quickly that this was a premier PE firm and somebody that I easily could align with and would enjoy working with and for. And that's been truly the case in the almost 3 years I've been here. They're fantastic. And it's the Jordan company based out of New York.
Oh
one
yeah,
of
the
the best
Jordan
private
company.
equity firms that I've ever come across.
Yeah, great. Give me kind of a 30,000-foot view of Odyssey itself and what the business does, what it excels at. I know it's a very unique business in our space.
It is a unique. So we're really a global multimodal logistics provider, where technology is the core of our business. We specialize really in complex logistics such as chemicals, metals, food and beverage, and packaged freight. We have an extensive carrier network across every mode that gives our customers the flexibility to optimize whether it's cost, whether it's speed, sustainability, and other priorities. And if I look at our footprint, we're in 82 locations worldwide, about 2,000 employees, serving 6,000 customers with revenue north of $1 billion. So that would be the best summary I could give you.
82 locations. Are those mostly offices for sales type people, or is there a lot of asset ownership in this business? Like, give me a little bit of understanding what that footprint looks like.
All of our salespeople work remotely or from their homes. So none of these are sales locations. They're they're facilities where we actually have warehouses, whether it's a cross dock or whether it's actually a facility.
Gotcha.
Yep.
What's your take on the remote work environment versus an in-office environment?
So it's a sensitive topic, and I appreciate the why it is. I'm a firm believer that in the office is the best approach. We have been for post-COVID at 3 days in the office, 2 days remote. Generally Monday and Friday remote. And on October of 24, I sent a note out to the team globally, and I shared that effective on January 1st, 25, we were going back 4 days, Monday through Friday, in the offices. Our operations, warehouses, et cetera, were already working 5, 6, some 7 days a week, so that didn't really change. And I firmly believe that collaboration is key, and you need to do so in person. Teams is good, it works, and we've all adjusted well, especially during COVID to it, but it's not the same. And a lot of the feedback I hear is, oh, it's the young people. The young people don't want to come in, which is not true. The young people want to come in because they want to learn from people like you. They want to be sponges around others so they can learn and move up in organizations. They want to sit in meetings where they can be coached and developed and really make better themselves. And so they're not the ones who don't want to come in. I see more so the ones that have been with the organization for longer periods. That they're the ones who have less a need possibly to come in, and they tend to say, well, I don't really need to come in. It's nice, but I don't necessarily need it. So I think it's better to be home 2 days a week. But I think you really got to look at, if you want an organization that collaborates, that works as a team, being in the office makes a difference. We have exceptions, and we try to make him exceptions, but I still believe that going back into the office, and we're at 4. I do plan to stay at 4. I think the one Friday where there's an option is a good happy medium. I know a lot of companies, especially in Charlotte, that have gone to 5 days now, more and more. The banks are starting to go to 5 as well, but I do not plan to take us to 5 days. But I'm always chuckled by the young people who are the ones who gets the blame, who that is not the case.
Yeah, I think there's a couple ways to think about it. So one, I was like the biggest early proponent of remote. And, when we were forced to go remote, and then, just in COVID, our team did so well in this environment. And the reality is our team does well in any environment. Our team, my former team, would do well in any environment. But I was so impressed by how they did. I felt like they earned the right to stay remote. Now, I think that was a huge mistake. And if I hadn't gotten fired, I would have brought everybody back. They actually just did bring everybody back this week, which is hard for me because I live 2 blocks from my old office. And now that they all came back, I see everyone walking around and it gives me a sad nostalgia of like, I wish I could be there for that. But that's a separate point. But I just, and part of this comes from my recent pickleball addiction where I go play pickleball because I don't have a job during the day other than sitting here talking to guys like you. But this is 90 minutes. I go play pickleball and there are people sitting there playing games with an AirPod in while their computer's up and they're fake listening in a Teams meeting, or they're just moving their mouse while they play pickleball. And I'm like, it's just, there's a trust issue that unfortunately has been broken. And separate from the young versus old, I feel like there's a separate contingency of people who just, the young people who don't want to go in the office are probably falling into the bucket of the people who want to cut whatever corners they can. The people who are hungry to learn and who are your best employees, they want to come to the office.
I would say that, there's definitely some who do the right thing, who work hard, even from home,
For sure.
but we have no issues whatsoever. And we have a lot of those. And we've seen that, at the end of the day, it's about productivity. But I still believe that even with that collaborating in an office is a different type of environment where you can go in and just, the water cooler talk, et cetera. It's meaningful and it's really how we want to run a business versus everybody sitting on an island. But we have a lot of examples of colleagues actually working hard and doing the right thing where I don't have any concerns on the Fridays when they work from home whatsoever.
Okay, let's take a quick time out and give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Rapido Solutions Group. Rapido connects logistics and supply chain organizations in North America with the best nearshore talent to scale efficiently and deliver superior customer service. Rapido works with businesses from all sides of the logistics industry, which includes brokers, carriers, and logistics software companies. Rapido builds out teams with roles across customer and carrier sales and support, back office administration, and technology services. The team at Rapido knows logistics and people. It's what sets them apart. Rapido is driven by an inside knowledge of how to recruit, hire, and train within the industry and a passion to build better solutions for success. The team is led by CEO Danny Frisco and COO Roberto Icaza, two guys I've worked with from my earliest days in the industry at Coyote. I have a long history with them and I trust them. I've even been a customer of theirs at Moller, and let me tell you, they made our business better. In the current market where everyone's trying to do more with less and save money, solutions like Rapido are a great place to start. To learn more, check them out at gorapido.com. That's gorapido.com. Now, let's get back to the show. Yeah, I agree. I think it's good to not. I think I made a mistake in kind of blanketing. There's not any type of person, right? But I do agree that
who abuse it.
There are some who abuse it. But I think the more important thing is just comparing remote to in-office. There are benefits that you can get from in-office that no matter what, you can never get from remote.
Correct.
It's just a reality. And that osmotic learning of just being around someone, listening to the guy next to you making a sales call and being like, oh, that was an interesting question he asked. I've never heard that before. I'm going to ask my customer that question. You can't get that sitting at home.
Nope.
So let's moving off
I
of
think,
the kind of
even from a succession planning standpoint, you're looking at training and development, and you can't do that really remotely. It's just not the same. So there's a number of things that you really have to think about when you look at this remote work.
Yeah. So talk to me about when you first kind of came into the business. What did you see that was working really well, and then what were the things that you felt like, I need to focus on this, and this is something I'm going to make as a change or make a focus for improvement?
So I spent the first 5 weeks traveling quite extensively, meeting the colleagues, some of our key partners, some customers, and got a good feel for where are we, what's going on. And after that, I sat at a call with private equity owners and just talked through my observations and what I thought needed to be addressed short, midterm, and longer term. And we aligned on the priorities and what needed to get done, and we kind of went to work. Um, we had we had run this business in the past, siloed really with legacy names. Hence the reason that the Odyssey brand was not very well known, because we were using a lot of the legacy names, and I understand why. And it made sense to a large extent that the philosophy was that we didn't want to kill the entrepreneurial spirit in these businesses, hence keeping everything the same. But once you cross $1 billion in revenue, there's a lot of efficiencies that could be achieved by looking at it smarter and consolidating things, and also branding everything the same. So I really put a new strategy together of One Odyssey, one brand, and we've been working on that for about 2 years or so now, and it is coming together, which is very encouraging. So we are going to market as One Odyssey, not as all the legacy names. We should be proud of what we come from and what company we bought, because there's a reason we bought them. We wouldn't have bought them if they weren't a great company. So the legacy names shouldn't just disappear, but we also need to be smarter in terms of how do we brand ourselves and how do we avoid confusing our customers. I sat in front of a lot of customers who said, "Oh, that's an Odyssey company? I didn't know. I've done business with them for years." And they didn't even know they're doing business with Odyssey. So we become smarter in regards to how do we go to market and really rebranding. And that's difficult because a lot of the colleagues, are proud of the companies they've been a part of for years, and rightfully so. And I completely understand it. But I've explained it to them, like I just outlined, that the One Odyssey approach is the much smarter approach for us to go to market, and we will be able to capitalize, especially on cross-sell. And the customer not even knowing what we do and who we are based on all these brands doesn't help us. This is helping us, and we're really seeing that also on the cross-sell side. So one of the things I saw was with that particular. The other thing was we had it was quite fragmented on just even the functions. So we've restructured the organization where the entire finance organization reports into the CFO. The technology organization reports into the CIO. HR reports into the head of HR, et cetera. So a little more of a functional type of structure. We've taken functions out of the field and centralized a number of them. And you have to be careful of that. It's a little bit of there's two sides to that. And you have to be careful you don't take it too far. And initially, we probably took it a little further than we should, and we swung it back a little bit. But we had to put some controls in place to ensure that we had standard operating procedures in a number of areas. In one area that was really low-hanging fruit was procurement. We used to procure 16 different ways, and now we procure one. And we can all see whether we're buying forklifts or racking or anything else. When you procure in a $1.2 billion organization, you hopefully will procure a lot smarter than you will on a much smaller scale. So there was some low-hanging fruit that we picked up quickly on how to do things a little bit different and better. And I don't, looking back, saying we could have, should have done a lot of things, that doesn't add any value. Nobody goes to work and wants to do a bad job. Neither did the prior team here. And it's really a matter of coming in with a new set of eyes. We've grown, and we've gotten to a point where we needed to simplify, to restructure into the more modern structure that we have today.
A lot of really good insight there, and I'll start with the beginning, talking about, because that resonates with me a lot, the idea of having kind of subsidiaries or brands that were acquired, and as someone who was a part of an acquired brand, you have such a sense of loyalty to the culture and the brand that you grew up in or that you helped build. And so it's hard when someone comes in and says, "Hey, we want to change this." it's sometimes hard for people to see the forest through the trees, and understanding that, hey, yes, your customer here might love this brand name and you as part of that brand name, but how much more could we do with them if they better understood what One Odyssey can do, and the 16 other brands that we have, that if they all connected and cross-sold and worked together, we could turn one into 10 or 10 into 100. So I'm curious, I'm sure there was some pushback there, and what was probably the most challenging piece, in bringing these all in one house? I imagine a compensation challenge may come up in cross-selling functions or navigating structure and who could sell to what. Anything like that kind of was.
I tell you, I took a little bit out of my playbook from an earlier, very large roll-up firm I was with in the past, who, when we bought companies, really within 90 days, it was integrated, and there was certain things that lagged past that. But it was a 90-day plan, and in many cases even sooner. It was fast and furious, but there was a plan, and the execution was absolutely amazing. When we got acquired, Bridge Terminal Transport, within 90 days, we were rebranded. The signs on the building, the offices were repainted. Everything was done, and even outward to the customer, etc. It was done very, very professionally, very fast, and people didn't even flick an eye. And recently, actually a year ago, we bought a chemical sampling company in Vandalia, Illinois, called Octachem, and within 90 days, we rebranded them under Odyssey. I used my prior learnings on how to do this, and we'll have to say that it worked very, very well. So it's the first one we've done under the new model, and I was just there recently visiting with a prior owner, founder, Mark Langston, who's been a fantastic partner and is still with us, still actively involved in the business. We actually even had dinner with the mayor the night I was there to look at some expansion possibilities in Vandalia, Illinois. And we're excited about what the future holds there. But I think the speed of execution and really doing it right, over communicating, but having a plan on how you integrate is the critical piece. And there we've definitely seen, we now have a model of what we will do in the future as we acquire. Not that you want to do it too fast, but you want to do it at a speed that everybody sees what's coming. And it's not really, it can't be a huge discussion. This is what needs to get done. You have been acquired. This is what's in it for you. This is what we plan to do. This is how, and this is when. And once people see the plan and get it, then it's a lot easier. The challenge we've had at Odyssey was we didn't do it, and doing it later on, I had a lot of people who said, we like the way we do things today. We don't like your model. We don't think it's right. We don't think it's the way we should move forward. And some of them put up a bit of a fight, and they said, well, he's probably going to be gone in 6 months. So we'll just have to deal with it for 6 months, and then he's gone, and we'll go back to our good old ways. But now they've seen 3 years later that I'm not gone, and we're still moving forward on the model. And I think many are starting to realize the value in the One Odyssey, and in particular on the cross sell, where we have a much stronger brand out there versus the many brands we had in the past. But I think you need, like in anything, you need to outline to the teams what's in it for them. Why is this good? Why is it important? Why is it important to our customers? And once they kind of see, okay, this kind of makes sense, I kind of get it, then you get them across the finish line. But it has been a transition, and it's been tougher in some areas than others, as you would expect. And that's human beings don't like change. That's just the nature of who we are. And some adapt easier to change than others.
So I think there are 17 acquisitions that Odyssey endured over the last
20-something
years. And as you started to go through this One Odyssey transformation, you have your plan of how you were going to go execute. I'm curious, like, what's one thing that you actually took from one of the pre-existing cultures or organizations that you were like, wait, I actually really like this. Let's bring this into the overarching business. Just something you learned from one of the old ways that actually was like, hey, you know what? I like this more than what I thought going into this. Let's apply this across the board.
I think the structure that I put together here, there's a rhyme and reason why I've seen it work in the past in terms of the shared services model, and then the divisions under that. It's been very, very effective. But I think one of the lessons that you always have to watch out, as I mentioned earlier, do you take it too far too fast, and do you need to swing back a little bit? And it's a fine balance. It's and you kind of you need to look at it both ways. And it's not a matter of control. It's just a matter of running a business the most efficient and the appropriate way, and also ensuring that you cross the T's and dot the I's. We now have much better policies, procedures, structure, but one thing you just need to make sure you watch out for is the entrepreneurial spirit affected by doing so, and that's the area you really got to be careful of, because if you crush the entrepreneurial spirit, that's a big problem.
So one of the challenges, or I'm curious about how you've navigated creating one culture with respect to how you communicate. Right? Taking 17 teams and making them one team, it's one thing to do that on paper and create an org structure for one Odyssey. But, 17 teams have their own 17 unique cultures, their own 17 ways of communicating with each other. And now you're saying, okay, we're going to communicate as one team. What does that look like in terms of how you yourself as the leader are communicating with your team, the cadence in which you're communicating, and how that all works?
The culture is difficult, and it's you really just have to be relentless. It's not something that's created from one day to the other. For example, we firmly believe in a strong safety culture, but putting banners up to safety is important. That doesn't create a safety culture. It is really actions speak louder than words, as I like to say. But part of what I've done is I rolled out a new set of values to kind of create a culture. And our core values go along. We win together. We innovate boldly. We drive results. We're customer centric, and we guide with care. So those 5 values is really what the foundation is. And one of the things that I do is I have a quarterly town hall that I hold live with the entire globe, and it's recorded. I generally do about 20 minutes of a presentation. I don't believe in death by PowerPoint, so it's just a handful of slides that really talks more about how the organization is doing, a brief update at a high level, some areas that we find as a leadership team is important to share with the colleagues globally, and then we go into about 40 minutes of Q&A, where we get questions that have come in confidentially beforehand, and questions that come in live on the town hall. And any questions we don't get to, we'll answer separately. And it's a great way to make sure that the colleagues see unfiltered what's going on, is able to ask questions. We get a lot of great questions, and really I'm encouraged by the questioning, and I am, because it tells me the colleagues care. They really want to know. They're and it's not, they're not inappropriate questions. They're very good, well thought out business questions on what are we doing and why do we do this? Why does this make sense, et cetera, to get further clarification, et cetera. So it's I find it extremely interactive, and I would be the first to tell you that the best part of that global town hall is the 40 minutes of Q&A, not the first 20 minutes of where I present, because the dialogue is really where the most value come out. And many of the questions that are brought up, I thought of by many of the colleagues, but a lot of them are shy to ask. Hence, we put together this confidential channel as well. And it truly is for confidential. We don't know where they come from. Some of them we wish we did, because we could probably address some of their concerns differently locally if it's really certain areas or certain facilities. But we've committed to it's confidential. So it is confidential, and we can't see it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I appreciate that, because one of the things that I thought about, one of the things that I feel like we did well at Moller was generate buy-in from our team. They were very bought into who we were, what we were trying to accomplish, and the culture we created. And there are a number of reasons and a lot of people who contributed to that. And one of the things that I pride myself on in my own contribution to it was kind of the art of storytelling, and doing so in a very pointed and intentional way, where when I would host our town halls, and I think about this just through the lens of you having 17 teams you're trying to get aligned, it's like if I wanted my team to pay attention to one thing that was going on in our business, I made sure I told a story during that town hall that aligned to that one thing. And it was a success story from someone in the team who'd done XYZ with X customer. And because they had done XYZ, we grew, or we got another account, or we got more business that allowed us to hire another person or promote another person, or whatever it was. But what it did was it took one localized situation and it expanded it globally to the rest of the team, and gave them focus on, like, if you do X, then Y will happen for all of us, for you specifically. And it helps get buy-in. It helps because, like, 17 teams, or even, any number of teams, can't see what everyone else is doing on a given day. But your job as the leader is to articulate what's going on in a way that helps everyone connect to what you're doing and learn from it, and then hopefully be bought into doing it themselves.
Yep. Yeah. The one thing that we see on the town halls is too, people give shout outs to others who've done an exceptional job. So I love the interaction that comes out of this. So further to that, each one of the 4 divisions will have a town hall subsequent to this town hall to dive more into their specifics. And in shared services and corporate, we'll have separate town halls also with the corporate teams. So I think one of the things it's getting back to your initial question of culture. Culture takes time. It's hard work, and it's a lot of effort to build it. But you have to be consistent. You have to be relentless to ensure that you over communicate. And I think one of the things that we all get busy, and these type of town halls are critical, and they make a difference. And I didn't do them for some time, and I finally initiated them about a year ago or so, and we've definitely seen a very positive outcome out of them. And as the colleagues get used to them and used to asking questions, and they're scheduled for the year, they already have the calendar dates, so they know it's coming. Initially they're like, "This is really happening or not?" Now when they see him scheduled out, they're like, "Well, he is serious. He is going to do this." And yes, they are recorded. So if I miss it, I can go and see it at a later time, right? And I think you want to make it accessible to everybody. We work in China, US, and Europe, different time zones. We're not going to get everybody, no matter when we hold it. So having it recorded gives the ability for everybody to go in and actually look at it.
I like that a lot. I appreciate that. Reminds me of some stuff we did, so I'm glad. Let's talk about growth. And I know Odyssey for a long time was kind of acquisition-led growth, and I feel like for you it's become a shift to more organic commercial growth. And one, why was that shift important for you? And two, what part of the business has been the best growth engine, or been the biggest driver of growth lately?
So traditionally, we've grown by acquisition, and we really need to grow by acquisition, but even more importantly, we need to grow organically. And my focus today really is to grow the organization organically through a couple of different means. The first one being share a wallet with existing customers. We talked a little bit about that earlier. The second one is new logos. New logo to me is a customer we haven't done business with in 12 months. And the last one is cross-sell. We have over 6,000 customers, as I mentioned, many of them who are able to support us in multiple ways. a lot of the areas I find is that the customers don't know who we are and what we do and what we're capable of doing. Hence the discussion we had earlier on making sure your customer knows what it is you're capable of doing, but also our salespeople probing to find out what is the customer's pain point, and then saying, actually, we can help you with this. We can do this for you, right? So those are really the three areas that I'm focused on growing the business. We've been through a 4-year freight recession, as everybody knows in the business, and it's been challenging without a doubt. We are seeing 26 definitely looks brighter, especially the second half. Some of the numbers that came out, I'm sure you follow that based on your background on the truckload sector this past week, came out definitely looking much better than they have in some time. And I think what we're focused on is how do we bring solutions to our customers, not transactional rates? And how do you really look at the as I discussed with you earlier, how do we bring a value proposition to the customer? And we have the unique ability that we can offer different modes. Many customers use truckload or LTL, but do they really need that truckload to get there on day X? Or can they, if they have 20 loads moving the same time, do they need all 20 to arrive on Friday when they're not working on the weekend? Why don't you move half of them intermodal at 20% less cost? And you're also benefiting from the CO2 reduction and being more sustainable and dabbling in the intermodal. A lot of people have moved really to truck more than anything else, but we all know this is going to shift, and you don't want to shift when everybody else does. You want to be ahead of it. You want to have experience with intermodal, have tried it, know it works, know what the challenges are, and making sure that on certain pieces of the business, it makes total sense to go intermodal, and you should move more intermodal. And we're trying to educate our customers really to become much more, think out of the box and think, I need to look at this in a much bigger picture than just, well, I'm worried about today and not about tomorrow. We all know how business goes. It goes in cycles. And having options and really having the multimodal approach, which we're able to offer, is kind of how we like to differentiate ourselves from our competitors in front of our customers.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I imagine in a siloed environment, each salesperson was kind of focused on selling their specific mode. And now you're kind of moving into this consultative, contemplative role where it's, well, my role was truckload, but rail makes more sense here. What was that like? Am I right that that's what it was and that's what you've moved to? And if so, like, how do you navigate educating your workforce or getting to a place where one salesperson understands all of these tools and can become that consultant?
We still have, we have a chief commercial officer, Bill Heaney, who oversees the entire commercial organization. And he has 3 sales leaders under him. One of them handles 2 of the divisions. The other 2 handles the other 2. And really, they are specialized in their respective areas, but we have done extensive cross training of all the salespeople to know how to probe and ask. They're not experts, but they know how to ask. And then once there's interest and really a reason to explore further, then we bring in subject matter experts to help discuss the opportunity further. But half the battle is just asking the questions. But as we know, salespeople, they generally sell what they're comfortable with, not what they're not comfortable with. So the education piece, to your point, has been critical to ensure that they feel comfortable talking about the other service offering that we have, and we've done so quite successfully. Our cross sell in the last 4 months is up significantly. We're really seeing tremendous traction on the cross sell thanks to this new initiative. And things are really coming out of the woodwork of customers that we didn't even know did certain things that we're finding that they do, where we can partner with them on.
That's great. And I'm curious, how does technology play a role in all of this? And I want to spend a couple minutes on tech because I feel like that could be where AI or some automation can really start to help with kind of understanding when should it be this versus that.
Yeah, technology is key, and we will have invested through 26, $40 million in IT over a 3-year period. So we've invested heavily in IT. One of the things that has been created is a data lake or data warehouse where we store all the data. It's all about data. It's all about having data. But then the important part is, what do you do with it? And really what we see in our data lake, what we've been focused on is really route optimization, predictive analytics, and also automatic bidding. How do you get better at these things? And there's so much potential on the IT front. We're very fortunate. We have a visionary CIO, Maneet Singh, who's been doing a phenomenal job for us, and we have really transformed our entire IT value proposition versus what we had before. We did have some systems, and I would say that most companies are challenged by this. Tell me a company that doesn't invest enough in IT. We always invest more, right? It's but you got to be focused on the areas that are truly meaningful for especially your customers and that really add value. But we have upgraded systems to really have much better product for be able to deliver the right service levels to our customers. And the other piece of having good systems that's equally important, I think, is underestimated, is that employee satisfaction. If you come to work every day and you work on an inferior system, how does that create of employee satisfaction? Every day is miserable. So it's critically important to have good systems to ensure your employees can facilitate and the customer's request, but also do so expeditiously and do it in a way that they enjoy their work. If they're challenged every day, then you're creating some bigger challenges for yourself to just trying to facilitate the workload.
So something that I think is really interesting related to the automated bidding concept is automated bidding thrives on large quantities of data. The more data you have on a given lane, on a given type of movement, the more accurate an automated bid is likely to be. What's interesting in your situation is that your company moves a lot of very unique things that maybe doesn't have a ton of density on the lane, or it's kind of unique in terms of weights or the type of freight. And so I'm curious if that creates challenges in developing a strong automated bidding system for lanes that aren't as highly dense or that don't have as much historical data to use for developing a rate.
Yeah, the historical data is key, to have that and really understand the freight. We're building that out. We're actually expanding our brokerage arm quite significantly. It's based out of Atlanta, and we've seen some great strides of how we have really transformed the organization. It was again branded under a different name. We have rebranded now under Odyssey recently, so the industry will see another brokerage arm come out that has a slightly different value proposition. And really what we're doing with it is every customer, I don't care who it is, they all have truck brokerage. And most have LTL as well, whether they like it or not. And so it's the easiest thing for the salespeople to discuss with customers. What are you doing on your truck brokerage? What are you doing on your LTL? And everybody has it. So it's an easy entry into a customer if you have a solid mousetrap in that particular space. And we do finally now. But it's been in the building blocks here toward the end of last year, but we're really off to the races here now. I'm very, very encouraged. It's definitely the area that we are going to see significant growth in our business.
So we're getting close to the end of our time here, and I've really appreciated everything you've shared. I want to talk about what the future looks like for Odyssey. Like in 5 years, like for you to be like, we nailed it. What needs to happen?
So as I previously shared, we're owned by TJC, and private equity firms usually have an investment horizon which for us might need a change in ownership in the next 2 years plus minus. That isn't unusual. It's just part of the typical life cycle in this field, and it's been part of our strategic plan. My focus and our focus really remains on executing on the strategy, growing the business, laying a solid foundation for whatever the future holds. And that's where we have our focus area.
Awesome. And last question for you, more on a personal note, as someone who's had such a kind of incredible logistics career, what's one piece of advice you'd give to the 22-year-old kid graduating college who wants to get into logistics?
I would say that I would focus on getting into a company that has a great training program and really to learn the business. And there's all kinds of training programs. It doesn't have to be it's not a matter of size. It's a matter of, are they willing to invest in you to really learn the business and invest? You make time yourself to really understand and learn the business from the ground up. There will be times where you think, I spent 4 years of college. I'm too good for this. This is below me, et cetera. But it's probably the best time where you will learn and really get a true appreciation. And I reflect back to, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, my early days at Maersk and being a trainee/gopher, probably the most valuable that I did, because I got a completely different understanding and appreciation for, what really makes up a company. And I think that experience and background just changes your mindset totally as you move up the ladder. And as you go through that, one of the things that you'll see is that there's things that you experience and bosses that you have that you think are great and do the right thing. And there are bosses that you think aren't great and don't do the right thing. Learn from that. Make sure as you move up that don't do to others what you didn't like. Do to others what you liked. And others aren't necessarily that different than you are. And these are not big things. They're fairly small things, but they're meaningful. But be mindful, never forget where you came from. I think being humble is very important as a leader. And nobody knows it all. As I say to my team often, we're a lot smarter as a team than we are as individuals. And I truly believe in that. But getting back to your question, I think really getting into a company that is willing to invest and train you and expose you is probably one of the best things to do to get into logistics and really learn the business. There's a lot of facets of logistics. There's a lot of great companies out there to pursue and start their careers.
Hans, as you said, nobody knows it all, but you certainly know a lot. And I appreciate you sharing that wisdom with us today for 90 plus minutes. I know my audience will as well. I wish you all the success as you continue to build out Odyssey, and don't be a stranger. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for including me.
And with that, we'll see you next week.